Yeah, I know this is coming out a little later than usual. I've got 3 letters for you. DMV. Uh, on top of that, there was something else that happened I'll touch on in just a minute here. Obviously, this is the WWE Battleground recap and review. You know what, we're just going to kind of go right into this. Obviously, this is the first network event since the draft, and there's going to be ramifications going on with that. Let's get straight to the matches. First off, we have our kickoff show match, the Usos versus Breezango. Right off the bat, Fandango and Jimmy Uso started off. The Usos hit a backbreaker fist drop combo early on Tyler Breeze. Let's see. Breeze hit the stun gun on Jey Uso after that. Fandango hit a distracted Jimmy for rolled him up for a 2 count. Eventually, the Usos hit a big super kick, went for the Jimmy. Yeah, one of the Jimmy Uso went for the big splash, and Tyler Breeze countered that into a small package for the 3 count and the win. Pretty by the numbers tag match. Much like a lot of people, I really do like Breezango as a tag team. I think, especially now that they're on SmackDown, they're going to have a bit more room to grow. Whereas on the Raw, I think Raw's got a really kind of clogged up tag division right now. They've got obviously they got the New Day, the tag champs. They've got Enzo and Cass. They've got the Club. They've got the Dudleys. You know, meanwhile, SmackDown has Breezango. They have the Vaudevillains. They have what else? The Ascension, and I guess technically you could say the Wyatt family. Sort of. They have Rowan and Wyatt on there, so a good start-off match for them all. Oh, and the Usos are on SmackDown too. Yeah. And this is where things get a little strange. Yes, I have a Fitbit now. This was a gift. Anyway, back to Battleground. Okay, so that was the kickoff show. The kickoff show ends, and I see the thing come up for WWE Battleground. So I clicked that, and I got sent into the live feed for the live stream of it. Not the Sunday live stream, obviously a rebroadcast of the original live stream. And that basically put me into the middle of the show, and so I thought it was the second match, was not the second match, and I'll touch on that when we get to it. So I had to back out of that, restart the whole pay-per-view, the whole event, and so anyway, the second match after that is the tag team of Charlotte and Dana Brooke versus Sasha Banks and Bayley. Yeah, this was kind of spoiled for me. I think there was something on Twitter at some point I caught it, where they talked, or I think it was actually Movie Bob talked about, he saw the wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men of Bayley, and it's like, I could get into this now. Again, another pretty by the numbers match. Sasha and Bayley were playing to the crowd a little bit. They were doing to the corners, and then Dana and Charlotte jumped them. Charlotte threw Sasha face first into the second turnbuckle. Bayley hit Dana with a series of axe handles. Charlotte distracted Bayley, allowing Dana to roll her up for a 2 count. Sasha hit a couple of hit the double knee stomp in the corner for a 2 count. Sasha locked on the bank statement on Charlotte, but Dana pulled the ropes. This caused Bayley, Dana, and Charlotte to scuffle outside. Charlotte got back in the ring. Sasha hit the backstabber into the bank statement. Charlotte tapped out. Obviously, this is going to be setting up the women's title match at SummerSlam. A little bit later on in the show, they actually said Bayley's appearance might have been just a special appearance for the show, so maybe she's not quite off the NXT roster just yet. Okay, and now we have the first of our 2 6-man tags for the night. The New Day versus the Wyatt Family. Now, at the start of the match, Big E and Braun Strowman were in the ring, but then Xavier wanted to tag in, and that made Bray Wyatt immediately tag in, and then Xavier just stood there, frozen in fear. He couldn't do anything. He just stared and stared. Kofi blind tagged, and that's kind of how the match started. And there really wasn't much to this match. It was a lot of the same thing over and over again. In this case, Kofi got really isolated by the Wyatts. Eventually, Xavier would tag in, but then he'd face Bray again, and he'd just freeze. At one point, Bray stared down Xavier in the corner so much that Xavier actually backed away from the ring for a while. Eventually, Big E got the hot tag, hit a big body slam and a belly-to-belly suplex and a big splash. Wyatt then distracted Big E. Xavier blind tagged in. Xavier went after Wyatt, tried to get a roll-up on him. Actually, Xavier started fighting, managed to actually start fighting off the Wyatts, but then Bray Wyatt hit the Sister Abigail for the 3 count. Pretty nondescript 6-man tag. The other one was definitely a better highlight for that. And speaking of nondescript, our next match is the United States Championship match, Zack Ryder versus Rusev. Again, pretty by the numbers. They did a little chain wrestling early on. Rusev really kind of dominated this, and then Zack Ryder got the second wind. He started getting some offense. Then Rusev countered a drop kick with a roundhouse kick. Rusev countered a broski boot. Ryder hit a big neck breaker and then hit another. Actually did hit the broski boot and got a 2 count. They fought outside the ring. Zack Ryder hit a drop kick from the barricade. Ryder then hit the Rough Rider. He then went for his big elbow drop. Rusev actually countered the elbow drop and hit a Savate kick, and then locked on the Accolade, and eventually Ryder tapped out. After the match, Rusev was beating on Ryder, and then Mojo Rawley came out, obviously because Mojo Rawley was drafted this past week, so he's on the main roster now on SmackDown. And obviously should tip off for the other title match what was going to happen, because they want to definitely have brand-specific titles with this. Rusev and Rawley didn't really fight at all. Rawley just stared him down, and Rusev left the ring. And now the Hype Bros are officially on SmackDown, which is another tag team you could add. So there you go. Okay, now on to our 5th match, which is probably the match of the night: Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. Almost right away, the two start brawling to the point they fall outside of the ring. They then began kind of whipping each other into the various ring barricades. Eventually, they got back into the ring. Owens hit his big cannonball in the corner. Owens was beating on Zayn mercilessly. Owens locked on a big sleeper hold. Eventually, Zayn's got out of it and hit a Michinoku driver for a 2 count. And then they had their one little slip up. They got outside the ring. Zayn tried to do a springboard, split-legged moonsault to the outside of the ring. Botched it and got the worst of it. You're supposed to kind of, if this is the ring, you split leg out, and you're supposed to kind of take a big arc. He did not take as big an arc. He kind of went like that, basically right to the edge of the ring apron, kind of banged the back of his head on the ring. It was pretty bad. Anyway, they managed to get back in the ring. Zayn hit a Blue Thunder Bomb for a 2 count. Owens locked on a crossface. Eventually, Zayn got to the ropes. Owens hit a big frog splash for a 2 count. There was kind of the sequence where they kind of hit each other's. They kept hitting finisher after finisher. Eventually, Zayn hit 2 exploder suplexes, a dragon suplex, got Owens into the corner, hit 2 haluva kicks, and he's finally gotten his win over Kevin Owens, and this feud is laid to rest. Yeah, I guess that means they'll probably start tagging next week on Raw. Like I said, a really good match. Admittedly, I missed a couple parts of it. It just, I don't know what happened. I kind of dazed out a little bit during a couple points of it, but it was still a really good match, still very entertaining, as we can expect from those two. Okay, our next match after that is Becky Lynch versus Natalya, and not because these two are bad workers, but this was kind of the most forgettable match. Basically, Natalya beat on Becky. Becky occasionally got some offense in. Eventually, Natalya started targeting Becky's leg. Again, Becky managed to get out of it a few times. Tried to go for the disarmer, but it got out of it. Natalya could always get out of it. Becky had a T-bone suplex, got a 2 count. Natalya locked on a sharpshooter, but Becky got to the ropes. Eventually, Natalya locked on another sharpshooter. Definitely got it down in the middle of the ring. Becky tapped out. And yeah, that was kind of it. I mean, the good news is these are two good workers, so I know they can have a better match than this, and maybe they're going to save that for, I don't know, SummerSlam, but maybe a later SmackDown airing. But for this show, it was pretty ho-hum. After that, we have the Intercontinental Championship match, Darren Young versus The Miz. And like I said earlier, with Rusev retaining the U.S. title and that now being exclusive to Raw, you could kind of see where this one was going, as The Miz is exclusive to SmackDown. Though Young opened up with a bit of chain wrestling to start things off. Young hit a discus punch and then a swinging neck breaker. Maurice then began distracting Darren Young, allowing Miz to push Young from off of the turnbuckle outside the ring. Miz locked Darren Young in a headlock and then began taunting Bob Backlund. Young hit a back suplex onto the ring apron. Only got a 2 count on it. Eventually, what happened was Maurice and Bob Backlund kind of started scuffling a little bit outside the ring. Something happened where it looked like Backlund maybe shoved Maurice down. Maybe he's shoving a woman down, and Miz saw it, and he started going after Backlund. Young didn't see what happened, and he saw Miz attacking Backlund, and so Young came out and locked Miz in the crossface chicken wing, and they rung the bell right there. Basically, it's a no contest. Like I said, with the U.S. title going to Raw, it seemed pretty obvious they were going to make the Intercontinental title exclusive to SmackDown after that, so you knew Darren Young probably wasn't going to win. Don't know if this constitutes a heel turn or not, because it did look like maybe Backlund had intentionally done what he did to Maurice to get a rise on Miz so that Young would come and attack Miz. You know, is maybe Bob Backlund going to start giving Darren Young bad advice to make Darren Young great again. After that, probably the next best match of the night, the second 6-man tag, John Cena and Enzo Cass taking on the club of AJ Styles, Carl Anderson, and Luke Gallows. Anderson and Enzo started off, but then immediately AJ Styles wanted to tag in and face off with Enzo, but then Cass tagged in, and so Anderson tagged back in. There was a lot of high spots in this match. Cass managed to toss Enzo into Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. The club isolated Enzo for a big part of the first quarter of the match. Cena did not tag in. He just kind of sat there begging for a tag, and every time if Enzo tried to tag, he would go for more for Cass than for Cena. Eventually there was a spot where Cass threw Enzo over the ropes and onto Gallows and Anderson, and then Styles came after Cass. Cass caught Styles and threw him over the ropes onto Enzo, Gallows, and Anderson. That was kind of one of the high points there. Cena eventually would tag in and begin scoring off with AJ Styles. AJ Styles countered an attitude adjustment with a Pele kick. They got a big brawl going on outside the ring. Anderson grabbed Cena, hit him with a spinebuster on an announce table. didn't do the clear off thing. This was not a rigged to break announce table. This was it went straight onto it. So yeah. Again, a lot of real high spots here. There was this part where AJ went for or Enzo tried to go for a move, a crossbody onto, I think it was Gallows. Gallows dodged out of it, and Cena actually wound up catching Enzo and then sort of using him like a battering ram. At that point, AJ Styles came in and tried to go after John Cena with the top rope elbow. Cena ducked out of the way and he wound up hitting Gallows. Or it might have been Anderson. I couldn't quite remember. Eventually, Cena hits the top rope attitude adjustment on Styles for the 3 count and the win. Like I said, probably the second best match of the night. A lot of good action, a lot of good high spots. My one real qualm with it, I thought the intro went a little too long with Enzo and Cass. They just kept, and I get a phone message right in the middle of that, sorry. Anyway, the intro went a little too long with that, with Enzo and Cass, going through the whole rundown thing. Okay, so next up is not a match, but actually a segment. It is the highlight reel with Chris Jericho and special guest Randy Orton. Orton came out, and I think he was probably the most jovial I've seen him in a long time. I haven't seen him this extroverted since like the middle days of the Legend Killer gimmick. When he was in Evolution, he was really smug and arrogant. He'd actually kind of smile and show some emotions. Ever since that kind of ended about 2005 or so, he'd always been really intense. Even when he was a face, he'd always been just kind of intense and focused. In this case, he was more, "Hey, I'm back. It's good to be back. I'm feeling a lot better now." Just some quick notes here. Starting off, he barely acknowledged Jericho at all. He just kind of addressed the crowd. But eventually, Jericho got on the mic and said, "Okay, well, let's see this, highlight package of Brock Lesnar, your opponent at SummerSlam." And then after that aired, Jericho brought up, "Well, you two actually go back because you were in the developmental territory together, OVW. But you never. But then when you got to the main roster, you did everything you could to dodge Brock Lesnar. What, were you scared?" And Orton said, Orton basically didn't really respond with much of anything. Then Jericho brought up, "Well, why are you going to face him now? What makes you think you're special?" It's like, well, gee, how do you think I would feel if I came back and faced, say, Fandango? Which, that was actually a good little jab at Jericho, who took that long break and then came back to face Fandango at WrestleMania and lost. Yeah, so at least in this case, yeah. And then Orton pointed out, "Well, how many suplexes does it take to get to Suplex City? What, 12, 13, 20? What?" "Okay, well, it only takes one RKO to get to Vipersville, and that doesn't need any enhancements." Jericho went, "Ooh, you might went a little too far there. Don't tick him off too much." After that, Orton then tried to sneak attack a RKO on Jericho. He went, "Ha!" and he teased him, "Ha, I got you." And Jericho was like, "Ah," and then boom, RKO, and then the segment ended. That was kind of the only note. Not a terrible segment, but it was definitely better than the Edge and Christian one at Fastlane, if you remember that horrible thing. They had to, apparently it was so bad they had to follow it up with a forgettable match. Anyway, our main event of the night now, triple threat match for the WWE Championship. Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns versus the champion Dean Ambrose. It's just the WWE Championship now. They're dropping the World Heavyweight because, well, the World Heavyweight's going to be coming back on, because of the brand split. So, right off the bat, obviously, nobody likes Roman Reigns now. I mean, you could always occasionally get some cheers from a crowd before this, but now with the suspension, yep, that's all gone. He didn't really do anything truly heelish except, beat on Dean Ambrose a couple of times, but that was about it. Right out of the bat, Reigns went after Rollins. They rolled out of the ring. Reigns then chased Rollins around the ring a bit. One point that enabled Ambrose to try to sneak up and get a roll-up pin on Reigns for a 2 count. Then Ambrose went for a running crossbody. Basically, Reigns no-sold it. Rollins slammed Ambrose into the turnbuckle. Reigns then hit a drive-by on Rollins. Rollins and Reigns again fought to the outside, fighting near some of the ring barricades. Ambrose got up and ran across 2 announce tables and did a big kind of crossbody smash onto the 2 men. They got back into the ring. Ambrose got Reigns down. Ambrose went for an elbow drop, but Reigns rolled out of the way. And in the midst of that, Seth Rollins came off the top rope with a splash. Got a 2 count. Rollins then hit a Shining Wizard on Ambrose. Reigns then Superman punched Rollins, but then Ambrose did his rebound clothesline on Reigns. That was actually probably the best spot of this match. Eventually they got to the outside. A couple of times Rollins and Ambrose tried to do the double powerbomb on Reigns. Eventually they got him with the double powerbomb through the German announce table. And Rollins grabbed a chair and started hitting Ambrose. It's a no DQ match, so they get rolled Ambrose into the ring. Tried to go for a pedigree. Ambrose countered out of it. Tried to go for a powerbomb. Ambrose hurricane run Rollins into the ring post. Rollins did the superplex and the Falcon Arrow, got a 2 count. Ambrose then went for a superplex, but then Reigns got back into the ring. Went to powerbombed Ambrose and then hit a sit-down powerbomb on Rollins for a 2 count. Reigns then Superman punched Ambrose out of the ring. Rollins hit a pedigree, only got a 2 count out of it. Eventually Reigns Superman punched Rollins again. Then he speared Rollins, but then as Reigns was going for the pin, Ambrose got in the ring, hit the Dirty Deeds on Reigns for the 3 count and the win. The WWE Championship is just going to SmackDown now, or is officially exclusive to SmackDown, which means the World Heavyweight Championship will be awarded to Raw, and in all likelihood, I don't know if it's going to go straight to Rollins or if they'll have another match with Reigns to decide it, or if they'll do it, or if they'll hold off till SummerSlam to award a World Heavyweight Champion. But on the bright spot, that does start leading to some interesting things now. Okay, overall, I'd give the show a C. I mean, they had, of the 9 matches in one segment, 3 of them were really good. The Cena, Enzo, and Cass versus the Club, the obviously Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and the triple threat match for the most part was pretty good. The other ones were pretty ho-hum and forgettable. So yeah, I'm just going to go middle of the road and give this one a C. Okay. Well, the next wrestling recap and review will be the NXT takeover back to Brooklyn. Then SummerSlam, but that's not until the weekend of August 20th and 21st. So the next video after that, I'm guessing, is going to be the Suicide Squad review. And then after that, it will be the new episode of the Random Trade review on the last days of Animal Man. Yeah, sorry, Animal Man. Oh, I'm getting loopy. See you all next time.